Hello, hi. I am Olivia and a very warm welcome to the channel Profits and Books. This is a channel about money and finance, but yet there are other issues that are affecting our communities that I have an opinion about. Because when you try to run a business, when you try to make money, there are certain factors that you cannot ignore that will have an impact on your ability to make money. And those are the issues that I weigh on. And today I want to talk about single motherhood. The reason why I'm talking about it today. Recently, in South Africa, one of the headlines, if not the headlines for the last few months, has been that of Thabo Bester and his girlfriend, Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. I hope I pronounced the surname right. Thabo Bester has faked his own death, and he escaped from prison allegedly with the help of Nandipha, Dr. Nandi. And recently a body has been discovered, it was then discovered that Thabo did not escape. But what happened was that they faked his death by burning a body in his cell. And then in that process, he escaped. So that is in the headline. So just let me recap that in a more proper way. Thabo Bester and his girlfriend, Dr. Nandi, they faked his escape, and of course with other officials, because he was locked up in prison because he was convicted for luring people or potential models to him, and he raped a woman. He raped her and he killed her, and there were others as well. And he was found guilty, locked up. And then last year, he faked his own death and managed to escape from prison with the help of Nandi. So that is the backdrop of the story. So of course, there are many conspiracy theories. There are many questions and many things that are being discussed and talked, because this sounds like a movie. But that is not what I want to talk about today. There's enough coverage and enough opinions about it. But the thing that bugs me now, and that the one that gets to me, is the fact that now people are going back to Thabo's traumatic childhood. And the question is being asked that maybe his traumatic childhood played a role in the decisions that he made, the decisions that he took. Because apparently he stole from a very young age. He had difficulty to know the difference between right and wrong. And according to the records, his mother, when she got pregnant with him, when she gave birth, she left him with the grandmother. And then he said the grandmother's boyfriend, he alleged his grandmother's boyfriend sexually abused him. And this was some of the mitigating factors to try to understand why he is who he is and why he did what he did. But now the narrative is coming more and more to the fore that maybe it was because he was raised by a single woman. Maybe because he had an absent father. And I find that's a very popular narrative to take. That the perception, and even though I've heard that research has been done to prove that a man needs a strong father figure, a boy needs a strong father figure in order to make the right decisions in life. And when you are raised by a single mother, your chances of becoming a delinquent, of becoming a lawbreaker, of becoming a failure in life, your chances of making the wrong decisions, it increase because you did not have a father figure in your life. So the question that I want to ask is this. When then if you did not have a father figure in your life, when do you reach the point that you take accountability for your own decisions? When do you reach a point that you take personal responsibility for your life? The truth is, many of us, if not all of us, have suffered traumatic experiences. There are very few people in this world who did not have something bad happening to them when they were a child. And the reality is, when you are a child, you are at the mercy of adults. You have no defense against them. They are there. They make the decisions that affect you in the end. That is a fact. That is a reality. For a certain portion of your life, you are dependent on adults to make decisions that affect you, whether you realize, whether you like it or not. But here is the thing. There must come a time in your life that you no longer blame your parents, blame your upbringing, blame your circumstances, blame your traumatic past of what has happened to you. This is in no way to diminish or to take away or to deny the damage that you might have suffered at the hands of monsters. Because it's a monster who does those awful things to you. The monster who happens to be the person who was supposed to be the responsible adult in your life. And they didn't live up to that role as a responsible adult in your life. But you can still get away up until a certain age of blaming them. Yes, we all have done that, where we blame the adults in our lives for where we are, the decisions that we've taken, the opportunities we didn't get. We've made that decision. We blame them for those decisions. I couldn't have this because my mother didn't do this. I can't have that because my dad didn't do that, or my father was absent, or whatever your reason. Yes, you have the right to do that. But up until a certain age, you cannot, for the rest of your life, blame the adults who damaged you, who wanted to destroy you, who harmed you, who traumatized you. You cannot blame them anymore for the decisions that you take. Because when is the cycle going to end? And that brings me to the narrative of absent fathers and single mothers. I just want to read some statistics. This is in South Africa. This research was done by UCT in 2020. According to that research, at that stage in 2020, there were 20 million children in South Africa. Of those 20 million children, so there were 20 million children living in South Africa. This was in 2020. Then I went to the website of Stats SA, that is the Statistics South Africa. They gather data of many different things in South Africa, from your income to inflation to they cover all the industries, and they provide the different data by gathering that information. So according to Stats SA, 21.3% of children in South Africa did not live with parents. Just over 20% of 20 million children did not live with their parents. They don't explain where these children were. 32.7% live with both parents. That's just almost 33% of children live with both parents. 42% live with single mothers, and only 4% live with only fathers. So the majority of the children in South Africa either live only with a mother or they live with both parents. Single mothers, single motherhood is one of the toughest things to do. Raising a child on your own is like they say in South Africa, snip up and vlees. It's one of the hardest, most challenging, exhausting, draining, financially, emotionally, and physically, draining thing that you will ever do. And any woman who can raise a child alone needs to be commended. It's not an easy thing to do. But what cannot be accepted is that single mothers mostly produce failures because there's no father figure in a child's life. The beauty of the world that we live in today is that anyone can become a father figure if they are man enough to step up. Being raised by both parents does not guarantee that a child will be normal, if there's such a thing, but the child will be well adjusted, successful, a well-balanced, independent individual. You can have both parents and still turn out to be a mean, vindictive little monster. It can happen when you're only raised by your mother. What we need to focus on is what kind of a woman is raising a child, and what are the choices that that child has. Because if you are honest about your life, brutally honest, not the honesty with sympathy or the honest looking for seeking pity or wanting to justify things, wanting to blame someone, but the brutal honesty is always, no matter how dark and how difficult your life becomes, there is always one person who's looking out for you. Just one. That one person that you can go to, that you can trust and rely on. It might not be the ideal relationship. It might not be a male figure that who are bound to you by blood. But in the midst, in the midst of all of the chaos and the trauma, there is someone. There is, if we are honest about it. But it boils down to the choices that you make. Are you prepared to accept that guidance from a male? No person is perfect. And there are many single mothers, many of them, who because they ended the relationship with the child of the father ended, they deny the child access, or they denies the father access to the child. There are many fathers who has to fight just to see the children over a weekend because the mother is bitter and resentful because the father doesn't want her anymore. There are many fathers who simply do not take an interest in their children. They don't care. Whether the child lives or dies, it's irrelevant to them. It's like there is no one and nothing, and that child means nothing to them. But we need to ask ourselves, what are the messages that we send to boys if we make it okay for them to misbehave? to cause chaos, to be unruly. And then we say, shame, it's because there was no father figure in their lives. What are we teaching them if we allow an absent father, to be blamed for the awful decisions that boys make when they become men? What message are we sending? How can you condone anyone who rapes someone, who murders a woman, murders a child, who steals, who causes mayhem and chaos, who instills fear in people's hearts? How can we say, let's try and understand because he did not have a father in his life? Because in many communities, they are uncles, they are brothers, they are cousins, they are neighbors. There are many people who can step into that role as a father. And as well to the single women who are raising sons. There are those who are doing an excellent job because they know who they are. There are clear rules and clear boundaries. A child knows from a very early age, when I do something wrong, there are consequences. But still, there are many women who don't do that. There are no boundaries because they themselves don't know who they are. They don't know who they are without a man. They cannot define themselves without a man. If there is no man in their lives, they feel like a failure, like something is missing. Where they set no standards, there are no boundaries, there are no convictions. And this is what a child sees. A confused woman will raise a confused son. And yet, it cannot be condoned, it cannot be justified. We must teach our sons and our daughters to do the right thing, not just for their own sakes, but for the sake of society, the sake of the community. Because if you raise a monster, because you think everything your child does is so cute and so adorable, and there are no rules and no boundaries and no discipline, then at the end, that child will not just become a problem to you. That child will become a problem in the community, and you will send a monster into the society. Single moms have an absolute hard job to do. When you give birth to a child, you give birth to a generation. You give birth to your child, or will give birth to their child, and their children's children, and so on it goes. If everyone we blame a past generation for the mistakes and the decisions that we make, we will keep on repeating the same mistake again and again and again. And before you know it, you have an entire generation that's completely messed up. They identified the body that was in the cell, that was found in the cell of Thabo Bester. And you have to understand, behind every murder, that's just a headline and a statistic. There's a family who's grieving, who's mourning, who is in pain. There's a family who has lost a loved one. There's a family who has to come to terms that their child, the life of their child has been snuffed out by a monster. And then we want to follow, and we want to condone, and we want to feel sympathy because that monster didn't have a father. He had an absent father. That is like saying everybody who grew up without fathers, it's okay for you to do bad and do unspeakable things and unthinkable things because you did not grow up with a father. Look, as a woman, I cannot identify with what it does to a boy who grows up without a father. But what I have seen and what I've experienced, what I've seen, is that a boy who is serious about his life, about the choices that he wants to make, a boy who understands the consequences of his actions, he will actively seek out a positive father figure. And it does not have to be a father who's bound to him by blood. We can no longer stand by and accept the ugliness of society because we are being told that this is why it has happened. We can no longer do that. We need to take responsibility for our actions and our decisions. You know the thing about a decision, when you decide something, you have no idea how it's going to turn out. But you must be willing and prepared to stand by your convictions and deal and accept the consequences of your decision. Do you think it's easy? It's not. It's so easy to blame society, to blame my mother, to blame my father, my principal, whoever. It's so easy to hold someone else responsible and accountable for the decisions that you've made. Let's look at the role of women. You have forgotten your power as a woman. You think when you have a man, and you can, if the shoe fits, you can put it on. If it doesn't, it's okay. But there are too many women who think it's only when they have a man that they can be strong. You know what attracts a man to you? It's when you are strong by yourself. When you can make your own decisions and stand by them. And there's no need, it doesn't have to be me and my kids against the world. You don't have to fight against the world. You just need to stand by your convictions and your decisions. It's interesting, at the same time, we vilify single mothers, criticize them. I did not realize or understand the toll it takes on a single woman to be when she becomes a mother, or the burden and the judgment that she carries with her because of society. I did not understand that until someone actually shared it with me, of when she was pregnant, how ashamed she felt because she didn't have a man, she didn't have a ring on her finger. That in itself, it's an unnecessary burden. Who are you to judge? Who are you to judge? But then on the other hand, and this might come across as controversial. The other day I watched a video, and it was there was a president. What was his? Was an American president who started the welfare system in America. And he is to be blamed. The narrative now is he is to be blamed for the breakdown of families in America, because he said, I think this was in the 1960s or 70s. So he said, if you are a single mother, we will support you financially, but there must not be a man in the house. So in essence, for you to get money, It's okay, you can be a single mother and you can have a child. But the moment you get a boyfriend or you get married, that falls away. Which, when you look at it, it was the right decision. Because if you, and that happens where young girls and women, they get children and then they live off the welfare money, which is not even a lot. And I'm speaking about it happening here in South Africa. And even though research will say to you that it's not the case, because it's not a narrative that governments want to accept. The money is not a lot. It's really not a lot. But if you are having a child in order to get money from welfare, it shows that you don't have a vision for your life. And remember, when you open the door to getting welfare money, what are you? Oh, you're opening the door to dependency, relying on someone else to come and save you. I know the welfare is there to support you and sustain you through a difficult time. But let's face it, how many people get out of welfare and they start doing things for themselves? How many people do that? We live in a society and in a world where you are being encouraged to do the things that will make you reliant on the state. Even though the state is sending another message, even though this is not sustainable to keep on paying welfare money, and it's not a popular narrative. But as long as you are dependent on something else, something that you haven't worked for your money, for your income, you will stay locked in poverty. You know, there's a very interesting and a beautiful story to come back to the issue of absent fathers. Where single mothers, because literally this is what happened, single mothers are being blamed and single fathers are being blamed. Absent fathers and single mothers are being blamed when their children turn into failures. It's not about the single father, the absent father, the single mother. It's about the choices you make and the messages you send and what you teach your children. Whether you are raised in a family where there's a father and a mother present, your chances to become successful are not better than the one who was raised by a single mother. As an example, years ago there was a story in the newspaper about a young man who was raised by a domestic worker. They were 3 or 4 children. His mother had to leave for work 4 a.m. in the mornings. She woke her children up at 2 a.m. every morning to check their homework. They were held accountable for their homework. She did not leave it to chance. This mother woke her children up at 2 a.m., a single mother, a domestic worker. She woke them up at 2 a.m. in the morning to check whether their schoolwork was done. Does that sound inhumane? Does it sound cold, heartless, cruel? How does it sound to you? She left 4 a.m. in the morning. When she came back, the children were asleep. When she left, they were asleep. So that 2 a.m. slot was the only time she could see them. But she did. You know what happened to that boy? Raised by a single mother. A father wasn't there. A mother who was hardly home working, like trying to provide for them. He became a lawyer at a top firm in New York. And the one thing that he attributes his success to was the fact that his mother held him accountable for his schoolwork. She wanted to see results. So do you still blame an absent father? It boils down to what the messages you as a mother sent to your child. It boils down to the support your child will find if you can't give it to them. Each child needs support, love, attention, encouragement. But we don't get that as children, and that is reality. And at some stage, you need to make peace with your situation. You need to make peace with your past. Otherwise, you will keep on creating messes, and other people would have to pay while you comfortably blame your traumatic past. And we must stop supporting that narrative. We must stop encouraging it, and we must start holding each other accountable for the choices that we make. It's not easy. It is doable. And today I just want to say, if you are raising a child, you must think of the effect, the consequences, the implications of what you say and what you do and the example you set, what that will have on your child. Because you don't want, no parent want few years down the line, you want to read in a newspaper, it's because this child was raised by a single mother and this child had an absent father. That is now why he's doing these awful things. We bring children into this world, and it's our responsibility to give our best version to our children. Whether you are a single mother, whether you are a single father, whether you are raising your children as a couple, you do not want to raise a monster. You do not want to raise anyone who would cause harm to another person's child. And that must be in the back of your mind every time your child does something that you don't agree with. The story of Thabo Bester is an interesting one. But we must stop changing the narrative. And we must start thinking of the people he has raped, murdered, hurt, the people he did damage to, together with his girlfriend, because she's not innocent. That's another thing. If you are beautiful, then suddenly you are the victim. There are no victims in this case. The only victims in this case with Thabo Bester are the people who are dead, the people he raped, the ones he murdered. And their families who now have to pay the consequences, who have to see their family members struggle and suffer because of him and his girlfriend. So we need to look at things and see them for who, and we need to see people for who they are and what they have done. I thank you. This was Profits and Wealth, and I am Olivia, and I will keep on talking about finances, money, bookkeeping, but also about issues that affect all of us. I thank you for watching.